Our next speaker, I have known for over 20 years. And Mary Ann really wants to introduce him. So she's going to come up and introduce Scott. But he's such a lovely person. Go ahead. I'll just say
He's such a lovely person. Is that what you said?
I didn't say anything about you.
Okay.
I have to tell you what happened. In January, I get a call from Tracy, and she said, Mary Ann, now that Alliant National is officially licensed in Oklahoma, which we are, would you like to do an hour of education? And I said, yes. But then we all know you don't tell Tracy no. So then I said, what do you want us to teach? And she said, manufactured housing. And I said, I'm sorry, but that's not my area of expertise. I didn't teach manufactured housing. But fortunately, we have someone on our staff who is literally an expert at manufactured housing. Scott Flores is charge of our audit department at Alliant. And he's also, and some of you will be interested to know this, he's also on the internal audit committee for ALTA. So, you know, he's one of these auditors, but I like to call him the guru of manufactured homes. He started in this business when he was 15, 16, so he's been around a little. So help me welcome Scott Flores from Alliant National on manufactured homes.
Right, let me get. Okay. So, a lot of people have asked, how did you get into working with manufactured homes? So, for a while, I thought maybe this is punishment for sins in this life or past life. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm on a mission from God. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm just crazy. And so I think it's a mixture of of all of them. I actually grew up in a manufactured home, so maybe that's where we start with this. And so what I like to do when we're talking about manufactured homes is to take us actually kind of from the beginning, before we get into the state specifics, is to kind of give an overview on exactly what are manufactured homes, because definitions are important. I actually teach this class for real estate brokers, and that's usually what we spend the first part of the course on, is what are they? Because there's different terms that are out there. So, a manufactured home it's actually a federal definition. That's the biggest key. If you go to a dealer right now that sells manufactured homes, and if you go walk into there and say, I want to buy a mobile home, they will immediately correct you and say, we don't sell mobile homes. And if you call it a trailer home, that's even worse. That's even worse to a dealer. Been with them several times. So the term manufactured home is actually, like I said, it's a federal designation. So back in June of '76, June 15th, in fact, HUD started to regulate the construction and safety standards of manufactured homes. Now, that was June 15th. I was born June 17th, so I guess this was just in the stars that I was meant to do this with manufactured homes. And so, interesting, so all manufactured homes, and a lot of you have probably seen these before. So all manufactured homes come with a HUD certification label number on them. That's the metal tag that's located on the outside of the home. Now, when it first comes off of the assembly line and these are certified, it's a red tag. Now, later on, it becomes this gray metal tag on the outside of the home. What's interesting is that when we're going to talk a little bit later about modular homes, because you can't talk about manufactured homes unless you speak about modular homes. And I've actually had discussions with sellers, with real estate brokers, and the seller or the owner is always excited to say, I own a modular home. You look over their shoulder, the HUD tags are on the outside of the home, and then we have to tell them, oh, no, it's actually a manufactured home that you have. And so by identifying this, because I think sometimes when we have a closing that's coming into the office or we're examining a title, we're trying to identify what exactly do we have, so that way we can go ahead and make the proper requirements to go ahead and close the transaction. So how do we distinguish between the HUD certification label numbers and actually, what are we looking at when we're trying to go ahead and identify this? And the reason why I kind of want to go through the HUD label numbers is eventually this gets us to information we need when you get that seller or you get that borrower that's refinancing. You find out, okay, it is a manufactured home. You go to ask them, what information do you have? And they're like, nothing. I never got anything when I purchased this. I thought everything was good. So sometimes we have to dial it all the way back and kind of start going through this. So the label number that's on the outside of the home, the certification label number, if you want to write anything down, that is not the serial number for the manufactured home. Because people get those two numbers mixed up all the time, and we'll talk about serial numbers shortly. So when these come off of the factory line and manufactured, we call these factory-built homes. Surprisingly, these are not the only factory-built homes that we see. But it comes with the HUD label. So a design approval primary inspection agency, if you ever see the initials DAPIA, that is actually the inspection agency that once this comes off of the factory line, they actually inspect it, make sure that it's to the specs of the federal manufactured home safety and construction guidelines, and they stick that metal tag on the outside of the home. Another interesting fact, and I don't talk a lot about it in this course, but a lot of lenders on a conventional loan, they want to make sure that these are on the outside of the home, or somebody can go ahead and identify them. If it can't be identified, or if somebody can't track that down, I know for sure FHA loans, you're out. You're out. Because FHA, part of HUD, this is actually a HUD certification label number. So a lot of lenders will have to go ahead and track this down. I have seen going to closing, within a few days from closing, set aside all of the, everything that we have to do now with know before you owe. I've seen this not being identified as causing a problem with it going to closing, especially if we're talking about FHA, maybe Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or if this is being sold on the secondary market. Some of those investors, very, very picky about their loans when it comes to manufactured homes. And so, it's interesting. You may not get involved in this part of it, but know that the lender not getting what they need can stop the transaction. Usually that's supposed to be up to their appraiser to go ahead and identify that, especially on an FHA loan. The appraiser is supposed to be identifying this. So I have examples on here. Depending on where the home is manufactured, or depending on how the HUD label number looks, kind of tells you where these homes were actually built. So a lot of factories in Texas. We actually have some in New Mexico, some in Colorado. I know the manufacturer Elliott that does solitaires is here, in this area in Oklahoma. They also have a factory in New Mexico as well. So the HUD label number always begins with 3 letters that identify who the inspection agency was. You'll get some states, and I kid you not, like my state, New Mexico. So New Mexico, our actually state manufactured housing division is a state-administered agency for HUD. I met with the director about 5 or 6 years ago. I kid you not. He brings out a badge from HUD. So John was talking about law enforcement earlier with CFPB. Well, this director for manufactured housing in New Mexico was that. And so his agency would go out and inspect these and issue the tags on behalf of HUD. You get some states that do it, and then you get third parties that do it. So if you see a lettering on there that's a little bit different, NTA, TRA, PFS, RAD, those are actually third-party agencies that are certifying on behalf of HUD. So each unit of a manufactured home, double wide, triple wide, will have a HUD tag on the outside of them. Here's what's interesting about HUD tags. People love to stucco and brick up their manufactured homes. Love to do that all the time. And sometimes it's not the actual original owner that did it. It's the second owner down, not knowing. And here's what I think is interesting sometimes is the dealers on manufactured homes don't really advise these people what you should or should not do to your home. And so these people don't know. Don't brick up. If you're going to brick it up, leave the HUD tag visible. Some people love to pry those off of there because they look ugly. Not knowing that technically in HUD's eyes, they've decertified that home as far as HUD is concerned, and it can jeopardize their ability to get conventional financing. So sometimes those numbers on a multi-unit home are in order, and sometimes they're not. They don't necessarily have to be, because if that inspection agency has a bunch of labels, so they have 100 in sequence, then they had to order the next batch, but the next batch is maybe 100 off. You may see some labels on some of your units that will actually be off. Okay, so that's the HUD label that is issued by the inspection agency on behalf of HUD. Let's talk about the serial number of the manufactured home. So the serial number is actually what the manufacturer puts on it. And that's a serial number like any product that you have, your mobile phone, the computer we're using. So that manufacturer issues that. Every manufacturer has a different sequence on their serial numbers. Usually you can identify the manufacturer of the home by looking at their serial number. And the reason I say that is that sometimes we have to go a hunt and track down all of this information. And so sometimes it's good to know who the manufacturer is. Except Murphy's Law, and this is usually what happens to me, I get the manufacturer that went out of business 10, 15 years ago. So then I'm kind of screwed. There's nobody for me to go ahead and call back. So when we're looking at serial numbers, we look to see how they're distinguished from each other. When you have a double wide home, you'll get a similar sequence of numbers followed by an A or a B for the different units. The place that you usually see that information, if you're lucky, is on the original MSO from the actual manufacturer itself, which is what we call the birth certificate of a home, an MSO. And depending on who your manufacturer is, if you have a double wide, sometimes they'll put all the information on one MSO, sometimes they'll put it on two MSOs, one for each side. So you'll have an MSO that has A, you'll have the MSO that has B. Then you get people that go out and title the homes and they only title A and they didn't title B, but we know it should have been AB because we see two units of the home. I have literally seen, and when you talk about manufactured homes, I've seen weird things. I've seen two people put two single wides together and make a home out of that. I've seen some people almost strip it all the way down to the metal beams and build over the manufactured home. And a lot of lenders, when they come to look at it, they still think, or they still consider it a manufactured home. One thing that I always like to say, and I usually say this at the beginning, is, and this is important too, so another thing you might want to write down, once a manufactured home, always a manufactured home. No matter the way it gets titled, the way it gets canceled, the way it gets assessed as real property, the way it gets insured, it's always going to be treated differently than a site-built home. It will exist in different areas. That is really shocking sometimes to the actual owners of the manufactured homes when we have to tell them that. And isn't it usually, it all rolls down here, so we're usually the ones that have to convey the bad news to everybody, like, oh, by the way, this never got canceled. Oh, by the way, this never happened. A multiple unit homes, A, B, on the end, sometimes XU, If you get Palm Harbors and Cavco homes that come out of Arizona, New Mexico, it'll have XU. The Elliott's, the solitaire homes, have FB for front and back. That one blew me away until I figured out exactly what FB meant. I thought it meant something really horrible, but no, it means front and back. So, and the reason why I say this is that when you're trying to identify, okay, what is a serial number, so we can go ahead and contact, somebody to go ahead and research this and see who the ownership of this is recognizing what those numbers are. So manufactured homes, and when I talk about manufactured homes, I'm always talking about those homes that were built after 76. So these are the ones I'm talking about. So another place, that we've seen sometimes, and I have an example here, serial numbers. So where do you locate serial numbers? So we have the MSO that we already talked about. We're going to talk about the data plate in the next slide, but they're actually on the metal crossbeam of the chassis of the home. Now, with my company that I have in New Mexico, I actually cancel titles there. I can't tell you how many times I picked up fleas by going underneath a home to find the serial numbers and gone back home thinking, okay, what is that? They are literally they are there. And sometimes somebody has to go ahead and dig through that to go ahead and get it. That's usually an extreme case when you have to go to the chassis of the home to find the serial number. Another way to do it, and because we're dealing with a lot of resales, and we usually don't get the easy ones that are the first time home sale, we're having to tell our customers, here's where you need to look for this information so we can at least get started with this. A lot of time, when a brand new home will always have what's called a data plate, and I made a mistake here, not a data place, it's a data plate. It's sometimes called the data compliance certificate, which will actually have information for us if we don't have anything else. And this is in your material as well. On page 6, the top left hand is what is most important to us. It gives the address and the manufacturer's name. It gives the date that the home was manufactured. Now, you all may have encountered this before. Manufactured homes are almost like cars in that you can have a manufactured home that's manufactured in 2016, but it's a 2017 model home. Those get titled all which ways. Sometimes with the old date, with the manufacturer date, sometimes without. If you're titling from the MSO, you're always going to have the model year date. If somebody is looking from this data compliance certificate, then you're looking at the manufactured date. So sometimes you can get off on there. And when you're looking at manufacturers, like for example, Clayton Homes is one of the largest manufacturers of these type of homes in the United States. Well, what they've done is they've gone out and bought a lot of their competitors. So the manufacturer is actually Clayton, but if they went out and bought Golden West, well, the trade name of the home is Golden West. And then you have a model number. So you see different informations when this industry is consolidating. So that's another place that if somebody is coming to you and we're having to find out and grab some information, they don't have the MSO, nobody has a prior copy of the title, but they can locate this, that will have the serial number for the manufactured home. So there are times when nothing exists other than the tags on the outside of the home. And the people will call in and they will insist that they're giving you the serial number. And we know that it's not this. So HUD actually contracts out to the Institute for Building and Technology Safety. We call it IBTS. They are the keepers of the information for manufactured homes. And so there are times when there's no other choice in order for us to go ahead and locate that serial number so we can go ahead and run it with the state to figure out is there a title? Do we have an owner or anything like that? Then this has to be ordered. And so you provide them with the HUD tag numbers, and they come back with a letter that gives you the serial number. Except, depending on who your manufacturer is, some of the manufacturers have reported in their complete serial numbers to IBTS. Some of them don't. Depending on where they manufacture, like for instance, I don't know if any of you have seen Cavco homes, especially that have come all the way from Arizona. The other interesting thing about manufactured homes, all manufactured homes are not designed to be in all places. Certain manufactured homes that are built in Texas, for example, are not designed to be transported up to Colorado in the mountains where there's snow, because there's different root loaf zones when it comes to snow. Same thing about manufactured homes that are built in an area that can't withstand a lot of wind. And so I say that because you see them sometimes coming from different areas of the country. Well, for example, going back to what I was talking about earlier, Cavco homes, depending on where it was manufactured in Arizona, what plant it is, their MSOs have different designations for that. So that doesn't get reported completely in. So what gets reported into IBTS is only a shortened version of that. This is where I become like really a nerd of manufactured homes, because I can basically, in the areas in the Southwest, kind of tell you here's what the serial number is, here's what it isn't, so that way we can get to the point where we can determine what is going on with this. So you'll get sometimes this letter, and you may see it, that will go ahead and give this. A lot of lenders, if the HUD tags aren't on the outside of the home, will go ahead and order this so that they can go ahead and have it verified before they can go ahead and proceed with the loan closing. And another thing, and I don't know if y'all have encountered this yet, just on the periphery, but I'll bring it up in this point now since we're kind of talking about lenders. Have any of you encountered a lender that has said, okay, we can't go to closing yet because we don't have proof that the manufactured home wasn't in another location, or that it wasn't moved from the first time it was installed? I'm in my area, I'm starting to see that more and more. Like for example, under FHA guidelines, the home cannot have been installed at one location and moved to another, otherwise it falls out of FHA. And I think Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that is one of their requirements as well. And I bring that up because sometimes the lenders will want to suck you into making a decision on whether or not it has been in that location, which you definitely don't want to get into that, and being the person that says, okay, no, it hasn't been moved. Yes, it has before, but that is coming up a lot more, especially as you're getting a lot more lenders out there that are loaning on manufactured homes. So something just to be aware of, that these questions are coming up from the lenders. And like I said, the first source that I usually go to is title company to say, hey, can you provide me this assurance so that I can go ahead and go with the and proceed with the loan. And there may be other ways for them to go ahead and determine that, but don't let them suck you into actually making that decision on whether or not it was installed at the current location, especially when it comes to homes that have been repossessed and then resold to somebody. Okay, so when we talk about manufactured homes, so we talked about manufactured homes, that they're a HUD definition, and this is if you want to follow in the material, this is on page 10. So any home that wasn't constructed after 76 is typically what we think of as a mobile home or a trailer home. So these are not built to HUD standards because those standards didn't exist at that time. They were actually, a lot of them were actually built to the ANSI standards. It's the American National Standards Institute, which is still around, that provides standards for different types of industries. So you have those. A lot of times, so if it's a mobile or a trailer home, usually there's no conventional financing available at all. So usually falls out of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, FHA. Usually you only see maybe a local credit union, a local community bank that will go ahead and keep the loan on their books. So they do not have HUD label numbers on them. Here's where manufactured homes become difficult, because we know that owners pry those label numbers off of the homes. A lot of times when we're talking about manufactured homes, you're in this weird area of having to prove negatives. So having to prove what something is not. And so you'll have people think, well, I think this is a certain year home. These mobile homes or trailer homes, they do have serial numbers. They can be in some really, really weird places. And the documents that generated these can be really really weird as not, but they do have serial numbers. So that's the old homes. Now, what's the other thing that makes it difficult in most states within their regulatory structure, they blur the line between manufactured homes, mobile homes, and trailer homes. So for the purposes of taxation, it all means the same thing. And so you get the confusion of what is it or what is it not. For the purposes of it being, taxed, assessed as real property, for the purposes of the titles being canceled, manufactured, mobile, and trailer, basically all the same thing. But again, it's different in the eyes of lenders. So we can never not talk about modular homes when we're talking about manufactured homes, because they really, really blur the line. So modular homes are factory built. Modular homes have serial numbers. Modular homes do not have HUD certification label numbers because they are not built to the HUD safety and construction standards. They are built to the local building code. And they are never designed to be titled, liened as a manufactured mobile or trailer home. They're always designed to be treated as a site-built home. But again, when we talk about modular homes, we're always having to prove what it's not. I've seen appraisers, especially appraisers that are very gun-shy, that will label everything that's factory built as a manufactured home until you prove otherwise to them. And so you'll actually get some, and sometimes you get some modular homes that actually get a manufactured home title because somebody made a mistake and went ahead and titled it, and it missed everything and it got titled, which really, really blurs the line as well. So how do we determine what is or what is not when sometimes we have missing pieces of information or we have information that is removed from it? So modular homes, if we're lucky, it actually has a certification on a piece of paper that's stuck on the inside of the home that says this is the modular home and this isn't a manufactured home. Sometimes by looking at the serial number, we can tell. A lot of the manufacturers produce both manufactured and modular homes. So they do both of them. So their serial numbers will sometimes begin with the letter M to designate that they're modular. Sometimes the only way that we can tell that it's not a modular is we actually do a reverse type of search with IBTS that we talked about earlier. We provide them with the serial number and they come back and tell us this was not reported to us by the manufacturer. There's a skip in the numbers. This may be a modular home. And like I said, a lot of times that doesn't trickle down to you, except on the modulars, except for the fact that when closing is held up because the lender hasn't decided what it is or what it isn't, or the appraiser has said, oh, well, I don't know yet, so I don't know how I'm going to go ahead and certify. And within a lot of the rules, it really does say that the burden is on the owner to prove what it is or what it isn't. But like I said, owners love to think that they have modular homes. When in fact they have manufactured homes, especially when you start telling them, well, I'm going to need this, we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do this before we can go to closing. That's when they think, oh, well, wait a minute, this is what I thought we had. So that's kind of the overview. So that's identifying what we're talking about. And now let's kind of talk specifically about title cancellation and titling here in Oklahoma. And really, for us, and I'm going to kind of stay focused on this area, is really on the title cancellation and on real estate and on real property, which is usually the area we want to go ahead and stay within. That's the best area for us. Once we start straying out of the real estate side, the real property side, then we kind of get into trouble, and we get sucked into things that we really don't want to be sucked in on. Except that we try to be just the best customer service people we can be, and sometimes it is really hard to tell people no, we can't do that. We take customer service to the nth level, and sometimes it's hard for us to say no. Actually, sometimes the best thing that we can say is no. Let me point you to the right people to go ahead and get this taken care of. So let's talk about a successful cancellation of a manufactured home title here in Oklahoma. And I'm kind of going to go through this, and then we'll kind of talk about some more specifics. And so this is the general overview. So this would be, at the end of the day, here's what we have to go ahead and get it done. So the first thing is the submission of the Oklahoma Certificate of Title for the manufactured home in the name of the applicant. Now, that first step sometimes just kills us because we're not even at that first step. Because maybe this was not taken care of in a prior closing. Maybe there was no prior closing, and this has just been transferred in the family, and now they're coming to sell it, or now they're going to get a refinance, and all of these requirements are coming up. So verification that no active lien appears on the record. In this instance, this here in Oklahoma is similar to what we deal with in New Mexico, in that a title can't be canceled unless the lien has been released. So there's no provision to go ahead and allow the lien holder to give consent to cancel the title and still keep their lien. It's almost an all or nothing proposition. And actually, if somebody tries to go ahead and cancel a title that has an active lien on it, the lien holder gets notification, oh, hey, we rejected something because they tried to go ahead and do it. Now, the reverse happens, talking about cancellation, there's also a provision to reapply for a title that's been canceled. So liens are always important in either areas. So there has to be a completion of an application for title cancellation of a manufactured home permanently affixed to the real estate. And a copy of that Form 756 is in your material. So the applicant has to take this form to the applicable county assessor's office for their listing and certification of the land description and the owner of record. Here's the thing. The title to the manufactured home and the title to the land have to be in the same name before it can be canceled. Otherwise, the assessor is not going to sign off on that. And so once that form is completed, then the title has to be taken and placed with, must take place within 60 days of the county assessor's confirmation. Because if 60 days pass, then we have to go ahead and do this with the county assessor's office again. So once the title comes back and it's canceled, the next step is forwarding it along with a copy of the application to the county assessor in which the property is located. And until the county assessor has that last step done, the title isn't canceled. So there's a process that has to be done all the way through to notifying and sending in the completed form to the county assessor's office to go ahead and complete that. So, in the instance where, and this is on, I'll talk about it now instead of waiting till the FAQ section where I have this in, is that there's actually a notation within the OTC within their big manual that says, well, what happens if our seller does not have the title in their name and it has passed, for whatever reason it was never done correctly, it's not in their name. And so within their FAQ, now they get out of this, they say, well, give us a call or provide us with a court order that will do that. And this happens all over with every type of state. When you're looking at, especially when you're looking at manufactured homes that exist within a motor vehicle type structure, is that in a lot of states, the way you transfer title on a car, some type of automobile, is very fixed. You really can't get outside of the rules. So when you have something like a manufactured home that exists within that same framework, you get the different states that don't allow a lot of deviations and that have a difficult time allowing those deviations. Because really, every time that home was sold, unless the title was canceled, title should have been transferred. So those owners, so that seller that you're working with should have had a title in their name. Which it for whatever reason it didn't happen. I can tell you in a lot of my experience in some of the other states where it really failed is when loans were being made left and right up until 2008, and hey, who cared about the title to the manufactured home? They had great credit, we're just going to loan out to everybody. After the financial crisis, boom. I have seen some lenders that have loaned on it, a home, and been loaning on it for years. The owner goes to do the refinance, the first thing they do is, well, where's your canceled title documents? What do you mean? I didn't need this 6 years ago when I refinanced. Oh, sorry, we won't refinance again unless you provide that to us. Once the financial crisis hit, now everybody is back to, oh, we have to do this by the rules. And so definitely, definitely it is, contacting the OTC to go ahead and determine, okay, what would we need to provide in order to go ahead and show this? Are we going to have to go ahead and get a court order, or is there sufficient documentation that we could provide to them that would reasonably show title did transfer? Like, for instance, maybe all of the deeds up till this point had the VIN number, so it was indicated on a deed that the manufactured home went with the real estate. That is a much easier argument to have when I'm the seller, I have the title, I convey title, my deed has the information for the manufactured home on it to the new buyer, and we're just talking about from me to the buyer. Once you start skipping 3 or 4 owners, then it starts to become a little bit more difficult. Okay, so before I go, like I said, before I go to that frequently asked questions, another thing I kind of wanted to talk about as well is the fact that so the title transfer, of course, has to happen before we get to the cancellation of the title. So it's almost like a 2-step system where transfer title to the name of the buyer before we can go ahead and apply for the cancellation, because going back to our form, the county assessor isn't going to sign off on it until it's in the same name. And for the fact, too, that any county taxing authority, no matter what state you're in, is never going to be out taxes at all. They want to make sure ownership is transferred so that they have this on the tax roll, so that they make sure that they continue to receive their tax income on it, no matter if it's not classified as real estate, classified as real estate. They want to make sure they are able to go ahead and get that income. Okay, so just some frequently asked questions, some stuff that I actually pulled up. There are some really good resources with OTC. In fact, they have a nice form. The part that was better for me, I'm a plain English type of person, and so I was looking through all the gobbledygook, that was all written by really, really smart people, and then I got to the frequently asked questions, and I'm like, okay, this is what I really need to know, because these are usually real world questions that somebody is asking, asked to go ahead and do this. So just a few things on here. That I thought was interesting is the OTC form FL 756, the only recognized form for notice of title cancellation or surrender. And the answer is yes, because there have been, especially lenders out there that will have their own type of forms. And in fact, they make you have these forms signed all of the time. They have their affidavit of fixtures. They have all of their affidavit forms that are part of their loan package that yay for them. They make us file them of record, but they don't do anything for us within our state unless it's one of our state forms. So none of the other lender forms are, or any other entities are recognized, even though, like I said, the lenders will make you have it signed at closing. They will either make you attach it to the deed of trust, or they'll make you file it of record separately. Another question that comes up sometimes is that, if I have a canceled title, and let's say I'm ready to upgrade and move it off of there. Because a lot of people do that. A lot of people, they love manufactured homes. They want the next greatest and latest manufactured home. But I already had a title canceled. So how can I go ahead and get it to where I get a title to go ahead and move it off of there? And so basically, there is a provision to go ahead and retitle the home, to go ahead and move it off. And when I say retitle the home is I have to have a new certificate of title if it's going to be moved off of there. Meaning we kind of have to do the reverse of everything we did to go ahead and cancel the title. One of the interesting things is that it requires a title opinion that basically says, hey, this is free and clear. There are no real property liens that are against it. Because the last thing that the state wants to do is to go ahead and retitle a home when there is a real property lien on it. So there is a provision to do that. Now, this is what I used to tell people when I used to close. Okay, so it took us 6 months to deactivate this title. If I find out you reactivate or that you canceled it, if I find out that you redid this title, I don't know if I want you as my customer anymore, because how long did it take us to go ahead and get through this? But again, there is provisions to go ahead and have this done. And I've seen lenders that had a real property lien, they foreclose on it, and at the time they foreclose on it, the home is not worth anything anymore. The land is more valuable. So the lender wants to go ahead and get that home off of there so that they can go ahead and sell the land. So there had to be a provision to go ahead and retitle these homes. Again, and this is what we talked about earlier, is the assessor's office from time to time has taxpayers that have manufactured homes that have no title. What should the county assessor tell them to do? And this is where it has to be researched. So if the home was titled before and titled in somebody else's name, then there are procedures, or the OTC has to go ahead and let everybody know, here's what we need. And like I said, at the end of the day, a court order may be required to go ahead and have this titled in our current owner's name, especially in the case that this home moved from another piece of land to ours, and the chain of ownership on the manufactured home title itself is not matching our land ownership. So you have two completely chains of ownership there that you can't make a really good argument to the regulatory agency that says, hey, can't you just go ahead and issue the title? Look, everything follows down and everything matches. All right, any Any questions? You sometimes just want to throw up after manufactured homes?
Okay, so I'm sitting here listening. It's a weird question. All of a sudden, we're seeing these container homes pop up. So those were like on railroad tracks.
Right.
I've never asked that question or thought about it. Is that?
You know, because I would think that it right. It wouldn't. You know, when you look at the state definition for a manufactured home, it would not, because one, it cannot move. It's not on a chassis, and it doesn't have wheels, so it doesn't fall within.
Somebody else's trailer.
Right. So it wouldn't fall under there, but so it would almost fall under whatever the local building codes are for.
Okay. Yeah, and the chassis.
Right.
Chassis thing's right.
The chassis, right? The chassis and the wheels and axles. That's what for manufactured home. Except some modulars, some of them will have a kind of chassis like. Some of them don't come on flatbed trucks. On modular homes, and they do come on some type of chassis. But you know, and manufactured homes, mobile homes, and trailer homes can be put in a trailer park where it is on blocking, actually where you can keep it on the wheels and the axles and just plug it in. Although I don't know if I would be wanting to do that with my triple wide manufactured home. I've actually seen, I don't know if y'all have seen the 4-part homes. Yeah, I don't know what you call them. I don't know if you call them quads. It's interesting. So it's actually a it's actually a piece. The front juts out like this. So you have you know, typically kind of like a double wide setting, but then you have that another piece, and actually no, that would be a triple wide. So on the quads, I don't think I've seen a picture, but I've seen it before because I had an MSO that had ABCD on it, and I'm like, wow. So somebody really wanted that. But your triple wides, when sometimes you see your triple wides, it's interesting that they almost look like, because that one piece juts out of the front, it almost looks like a site-built home. In fact, I should have done it for this class. I do this for my real estate broker class. I have 5 pictures that I put out on the table, and I have people identify what is a modular and what is a manufactured home. Sometimes you cannot tell the difference. You know, and one of the things, and I'm not an advocate one way or another on manufactured homes, is that when you're in an area, one of the reasons why they're so popular, and they're sometimes so popular when you're in a booming area, like when oil and gas is really booming in the areas and there are no homes for people to live in. If I have land, it is easy for me to go out sometimes and buy a manufactured home from a dealer and put it on my land. Otherwise, I'm waiting in line for a custom home builder, or I'm waiting for that tract home builder if there's any land that's available. We used to think in the day, trailer homes, mobile homes, you know, that's what we thought of. Metal siding, metal siding. You say trailer manufactured mobile, I think metal siding on the outside of the home. That fiberglass skirting, half of it is off, half of it is on. And there's different, right? And there's different additions on there. My parents have an older, and it's actually a mobile home. So it's a 72 that they have lived in. They're not giving it up. They're like, hey, we don't owe anything on it. We will just bury us in the home. And I'm thinking, well, we're probably going to burn it because I don't think any of the kids want it. So it may burn. It may burn down. But yeah, it's designed. You know, they're designed to be lived in immediately. But a lot of them, they're not that cheap. They're not that cheap. They are. A lot of them are really good material. You can get all of your washer, dryer. I mean, it basically comes fully loaded. But yeah, in the booming areas, that's where we see some states. Like example, my home state, New Mexico. Over 50% of the homes in New Mexico are manufactured homes. We only have really 2 large metropolitan areas. Everything else is rural. In New Mexico, a lot like we have out in the west and the southwest, and so those they're just popular. They're always going to be a fact of life in certain areas. Any other questions? That's a good question. Actually, here's what I think. It's not the tornadoes, it's the news crews. It's the news crews that are attracted to any place that there is manufactured homes, a trailer park, because that's where they go. So I think, if we're gonna blame anybody, it's the news crews. But Craig brings up a good point. So every so often, installation standards for manufactured homes will change because of natural disasters. Tornadoes. One of the biggest changes occurred after Rita and Katrina. And so, that is because they're factory built and because there's a standard construction, HUD is always looking at and revising their standards. And then another, before I am shoot off the stage, another interesting thing as well is manufactured homes. What's interesting is that municipalities, counties, states have to be very, very careful how they zone manufactured homes. And a lot of times they can't zone them completely out of a city. One of our cities back in New Mexico tried to say, we will not allow manufactured homes in this county at all. Everything was booming. They didn't want, they didn't want manufactured homes. Immediately the state came back on behalf of HUD and said, no. We regulate manufactured homes. And if you're going to zone them out, you have to do it in such a way that is not discriminatory, because the federal government regulates these. They have no problem stepping in and running all over a state or a local municipality when it comes to zoning ordinances. So just another kind of FYI tidbit on that.
Restrictions on whether or not they can actually put one on
Right.
Another area to watch for.
All right, anything else? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate our inaugural teaching here at OLTA, so thank you.